vibration, energy, frequency, vibration.
What's going on, world? It's your boy FNX. I am delayed, not denied. You know what I'm saying? I want to apologize about last night, being real with you. Just being with my youngest, man. Dad life, you know. I would expect you all to do the same, but we are on it. We are back. We are good. But before we start moving, we got show some love. Here we go. All right, man. So today's episode, man, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We are going to talk about single parenthood. And is it beneficial from the lens of the child, right? So not so much from the lens of the parent, because we understand that there could be so many different circumstances that may lead to a parent being a single parent. And some of them are preventable, some of them are not. But we just want to talk about today how it impacts the child and what it means for them long term, to be completely honest. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it. I have an article I want to share with you guys, and we're going to read through it. So let me add this to the stream real quick. Okay, so this is a website, singlemotherguide.com. Now, when it comes to statistics and resources, I really prefer to see .orgs. .com sometimes indicates just a difference in maybe an agenda and a narrative potentially about who controls it. But again, we're going to go based off these statistics here. Right. And the first part of this is, it says single motherhood has grown so common in America that 80% of single parent families are headed by single mothers, and nearly a third live in poverty. Now, I can testify to this because I was a product of a single parent household. Now, not completely, right? Just being honest. My mother wasn't with my father. My mother then married another man. They got divorced. Single parenthood right there. And even still going through that process, right? Battling the challenges that come with poverty and living on the poverty line and those issues, really, really synonymous, right? Being a displaced child sometimes is a result of a single parent household, right? Having to stay in the shelter, having to sleep in a car, having to sleep with family, having changing addresses. I remember there was a lady who got in trouble in Bridgeport, Connecticut for busing her child to Norwalk because she did not want her child to go to Bridgeport school systems. And for those of you that don't know, Bridgeport, Connecticut, like any other income disparate city in America, has its issues, particularly with public education. And I was a child, right, that was bused from Bridgeport to Norwalk at times. A lot of us were. And just being real. And so maybe that's something we'll talk about in a separate video, that particular case. But that is a symptom of single parenthood, right? And there are some statistics here that I think should really, really be present and conscious as we discuss this dynamic. Just being real, to be transparent. I'm a father to daughters, right? So I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure they're empowered with the information to make good decisions, especially about how they bring children into the world, right? That's the best I can do. But yeah, so let's go down. So now this says, right, and hold on, making sure you still with me. Yeah, you with me. Once largely limited to poor women and minorities, single motherhood is now becoming the new norm. This prevalence is due in part to a growing trend of children born outside marriage, a societal trend that was virtually unheard of decades ago, right? And according to the 2021 U.S. Census Bureau, out of 11 million single-parent families with children under the age of 18, 80% were headed by single mothers. We know that. We see that, right? How does this manifest? There are so many ways. I tend to think that children, particularly boys that are raised by single mothers, tend to take on more feminine tendencies. It doesn't necessarily mean sexuality. It could be how they respond to adversity, how they respond to dealing with their emotions. It could also be how they respond to how they deal with male authority figures. But there is something there that says that the fatherly presence is missed, right? And this is not to say that there are not some very strong, capable women out there who are great providers and take care of their babies. Lord knows, I'm a spawn of those, right? But when we think about this dynamic here, that is staggering, right? That is staggering. And I think about the young man, right? Like, for instance, my grandfather. So after I left my mother, right? I was with my mother for a little bit, stayed in the shelter, ended up finishing high school with my grandfather, right? So the last 4 years of my teenage years, my grandfather would provide me so much hard grown man game. And it came from the sense of like, yo, if you don't do this shit, this is what's going to happen to you. You keep hanging with these people, this is what's going to happen to you. If you don't do this, this is what's going to happen to you, right? He would say, hey, listen, man, no, a woman's not going to like a man without money, right? So you need to get up off your ass and get a job and educate yourself. And if you think that, you're just going to work and get ahead, you're stupid. He would say things like that in that direct manner. And worse, he was ruthless. I mean, he is around, but at that time, he was ruthless. Like I remember a time, right? A chick I was dating in high school broke up with me, and I came in the house. He was like, "Yeah, she finally left your ass, huh? You ain't got no money, nigga. What you think, right?" That's how my grandfather used to engage me. But something about how stern he was and how firm he was and how clear he was about consequences, about certain actions not being taken, was what gave me backbone. It was what gave me strength, right? And I think that's something that's missed in today's society. I saw an interview with Charleston White, and he was talking about some rapper that he was trying to give advice to, and the rapper just responded really negatively. And they asked Charleston White what he felt about it, and he says he understands the disconnect between the young and the old, because more often than not, this child probably grew up in a household without a male father figure, and grew up resenting the black male and its authoritative figure because they weren't around. And Charleston was speaking from someone through the lens of who had experienced it. So he was talking about his experience and how he believed it may relate to this young brother he's trying to connect to. And I agree with it in a sense, you know? I mean, definitely when you're young, being rebel to authoritative figures is nothing new. But if you're not used to having that sort of feedback in the manner that it comes from a father or a grandfather, but masculine energy to balance, because it takes both, I definitely think our children are impacted, right? So this is real. So let's keep going. About 4 out of 10 children were born to unwed mothers. Nearly 2/3 were born to mothers under the age of 30. Today, 1 in 6 children under the age of 18, about 12.7 million, are being raised without a father. Now that is staggering, right? Because even 1 out of 6 is around 13% or something like that. Because ironically, 1 out of 6 children in the state of Connecticut are food insecure. So we're starting to see some synergy, right, with some of the statistics that we're seeing around poverty and those who have and those who have not. Now, it takes 2 to make a baby, right? And how or why these scenarios come about, again, could be a completely different episode. But what we do know is that when 2 adults make a child and they are both not there to raise it, there are some serious consequences. All right? So, as of 2021, 11 million single-parent families, 80% or 79.5% headed by single mothers, 23.4% were poor, 29% were jobless the entire year, and 27.7% were food insecure. That's heartbreaking, yo. It's true, and these numbers could actually be higher, but again, this is what statistics are for, and we're just going to use this as the reference. But that's staggering. That means when 2 adults make a child and they're both not there to raise it, they have almost a 1 out of 3 chance to be food insecure and almost a 25% chance to be poor. and let's understand what poor is. Let's actually go to that definition, because I think there's different levels of poor, right? First and foremost, right? Shout out to my mom, yo. My mother would always say we are smarter than we are poor. Straight like that. Honor students. I didn't have the most resources, but that's the legacy that my mother instilled in us, right? And I think being able to control what you control, especially with education, is important. But the reality is, not every child can come from an unstable background and perform at their optimum level. If that child is hungry, or they're watching their mother get beat up, or there's drug use, or there's something about where they're living that is not right, how can they focus and be them best selves? How can they be children? You know? So, just definition of poor. Because here's the thing. When you're around a bunch of poor people, you don't know you're poor until you go around people that have money and they tell you that you're poor. So ironically, some of my best times and my happiest times are when we were the brokest, because I was unaware of what our financial stature was. And I have friends that come from the islands sometimes, and they say, hey, man, you know, or come from a country where the poverty level is different. You know, the healthcare, the running water, stuff like that is different. But they still enjoyed their childhood, right? So, poor is lacking sufficient money to live a standard considered comfortable or normal in society. Right. So, okay. So, the standard of being able to pay your rent and have food, right? They're saying that that's the poverty line, just about. But the reality is, we all know that life is so much more than that. In order to get ahead, you have to be able to more than just get by. You have to be able to save. You have to be able to invest financially, educationally, spiritually, all those things, right? Yo, this is right here. This is something, man. And sometimes I hear a dialogue about a woman having a child by a guy, or they're having a child and the father doesn't want to be around, and then child support getting involved, right? And depending on how much that guy may make will probably determine the payout, right, for this particular mother or woman. But the reality is, most women don't have babies by millionaires, right? So, yeah, there is a percentage of the population of this population of single parent families that will have babies by millionaire fathers, athletes, actors, high earners, but the majority won't. And even if you're getting $750 a kid, $1,000 a kid, I think there are a lot of single mothers that will tell you that is still not enough. Still not enough. We consider child care, daycare, if there's costs for education, healthcare costs, children being able to do things, all this stuff costs money. Oh, and they need to be invested in for their education too, unless they're able to get an athletic or academic scholarship. But these are things that are dynamics, and it's not guaranteed. I mean, more often than not, people are struggling because of this, right? So let's keep it moving. Around 52.3% of single mothers have never married. Almost a third, 29.3% are divorced, and 18.4% are either separated or widowed. Half have one child, 30% have two. About 2/3 are white and 1 are black. Wow. Okay, I guess that makes sense, because white people make up the majority of our population. So in terms of actual numbers, when we think about statistics, that would make sense, even if they carry the same percentages, other racial demographics, right? So I guess that makes sense. That black number seems a little bit high, right? For how much of the population that we are, having a third of the single parent households is not good. It's not good. I'm just saying, in this country, it's not good. A third of that 11 million. These numbers say a lot. So, and again, never married, divorced, either separated or widowed, all different reasons. There are many different circumstances that lead to how these things occur. I mean, the first one, I definitely think this is a high number, but I would like to see at some point that lower. I don't know how. I mean, I'm not a relationship coach, and I don't even want to get into that part of it. But this would make sense that a good portion of the single parent households come from women that were never married. So that actually may stay, or people that were never married. So that actually may stay the same. Interesting. When it comes to employment, 29% are jobless the entire year, and only 22.4% receive unemployment benefits. And I can tell you that there absolutely are circumstances where people live below the poverty line, but also don't necessarily receive all the available resources. I've lived through it. Anybody that's had to wait through Section 8 will tell you that, right? So, at any one time, about 2/3 of single mothers are working outside of the home, a slightly greater share than the share of married mothers who are also working outside the home. However, only half were employed full-time all year long. 25.9% were jobless the entire year. Wow. Wow, that's a quarter. 25.9% of the single mothers were jobless the entire year. And that's alarming to me, because how do you live? How do you get ahead? How do you break the poverty cycle? And Lord knows, I personally dealt with this. My mother was someone who was in and out of work because she also wanted to invest in our education. But she's also transitioned from a lot of this, right? And sometimes the opportunity to grow is important, and everyone deserves to grow. So hopefully these numbers are not stagnant, and we'll see improvement over time. But this is a high number. Among those who were laid off looking for work, less than a quarter received unemployment benefits. So 22%, almost a quarter of the ones that were looking for work, did not receive unemployment. So how did they live? Where did they live? Right? This is this is heavy, man. These are statistics, right, that I think say a lot. And they absolutely mean a lot. If a single mother is able to work, her earning power still lags significantly compared with men. About 82 cents to $1 for the same job, leaving a wage gap of 18 cents on the dollar. The wage disparities are even greater for women of color. African American women only earn 64%, while Hispanic and Latinas fare worse, being paid just 56 cents on the dollar. Wow, bro. This is how it's a cycle. All right, income. Single mothers earn income that placed them well below married mothers in the income ladder. The gap between the two groups is significantly large. The median income for families led by a single mother in 2020 was about $49,214, well below the $101,517 for married couples. I mean, that would make sense, right? And then in a lot of instances, the male or the man may be the higher income earner, which would skew that median higher. So, out of more than 10 million low-income working families with children, 39% were headed by single working mothers, or about 4.1 million working mothers. The proportion is much higher among African American compared to whites, 65% to 30%. Now, again, these are some staggering numbers, and I don't know at what point in the black family structure the nuclear household became what it is today. Right? And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And we obviously know that as people evolve, there are much more mixed families now, things of that nature. But the nuclear culture of having a mother and a father, or a mother and a father being there for a baby, or for babies, to raise them, to love them, engage them, for them to have feminine and masculine energy, paternal and maternal energy infused into them, so they can then return it to their children in kind. That's how we grow. That's legacy. Right? I think. And I know that's taboo to say that nowadays, but this is real. Single mothers are much more likely to be poor than married couples. The poverty rate for single mothers in America was in 2020 was 23.4%. Nearly 5 times more than the rate for married couple families. So if you are a single mother, you are 5 times more likely to be poor. That's even with the benefits you may receive. Man, I only say this because sometimes I see a narrative where, like, again, not even like rich men, right? Where it'll be just your average working Joe, and they're having a baby, and maybe he wants the baby, maybe he doesn't. And we know there's child support going to be involved. I've seen a narrative like, okay, good for her, she's going to win, she's going to get that check. And I just think, like, I mean, of course, you know, being there to financially take care of a child is important. But the statistics show that when that occurs, the child is so much worse off than if they're both on the same page. Right? I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to be able to say, hey, you should do this or do that. I'm just saying children are affected. Right? And a lot of times, if they don't know how to break this cycle, they're going to then continue this themselves. This is about legacy, y'all. This is about legacy, I promise you. Wow. Hardship. Almost 1/3 of single mother families, 27.7%, were food insecure. About 1/9, 11.7%, used food pantries. And 1/3 spent more than half of their income on housing, which is generally considered the threshold for severe housing cost burden. Absolutely, yo. Absolutely. More than half of your income on housing. How do you live? How do you stay ahead? And just so you know, being food insecure is not knowing where your next meal is coming from. Just to be transparent. Again, 1 out of 6 children in the state of Connecticut are food insecure, and it's slightly higher than the national average. And we also know that number is skewed. So in affluent communities, that number is lower. And in low to moderate income communities, that number is higher. So if we're taking a look at low to moderate income communities, this number can even be skewed even higher. This is depressing, yo. And this is not new information. I swear to God, I'm being triggered reading this. But this is not new information. It's a very much real life battle. It's one of the reasons why I started the FNX Foundation. So you'll be able to raise awareness and raise resources when I can. And to be honest with you, bro, the more synergy we get from the universe, the more we're going to help people. Because I feel like it could be never enough. And even sometimes, man, not even to make this about me, but looking at this issue, I realize how vast it is and how much it scales. And I think about, am I helping, right? Sometimes we'll donate food, they'll get 2 to 3 weeks worth of food, and a month later they may be in the same scenario. But my mother said to me just to focus on doing my part. Then God came to me and said, focus on doing my part. So I'll do my part. These numbers are crazy, yo. Let's talk about access to healthcare. Across all income levels, single mothers are the group more likely to lack health insurance, but the uninsured rates among single mothers have fallen in recent years thanks to Obamacare. Yeah. That's one of the benefits, and I don't know what side of the political aisle you may stand on or how you feel about big government or small government. I'm just saying that this has been one of the things that has reduced the uninsured rates among single mothers. But even then, when you're on the state insurance, there's certain things you're not in control of. There's certain vaccines that, because you're on state insurance, that you have to take. This is a big one. Access to child care. Nationally, the annual cost of center-based infant care averaged over 40% of the state median income for a single mother, about 32% for a school-aged child. Wow. Annual cost of center-based infant care averaged over 40% of the state median income. Why is this so expensive? Right? In Massachusetts, California, and Oregon, a single mother with an infant ages 0 to 3 will have to pay more than half of her income for daycare at a center. this is heartbreaking again, right? Because this helps keep single mothers in the poverty cycle. Because there isn't another parent in the household, child care is more of a concern. Not to say that two-parent households don't have daycare concerns, but when it's a single-parent household, it's more of a concern. And the fact that it averages over 40% of the state median income, and we know that many single mothers don't work, the access to child care dynamic is one that is so troublesome. This is real, man. My heart breaks, yo. You know, my heart breaks. And I would say, if you're a single mother listening to this, I pray over you, right? I pray for you. I pray that you get strength, discernment, and wisdom to better the situation for you and your children, because I see how hard it is. And I've been a child that has lived that experience. So peace and love to you if you're going through it. This is crazy, man. I mean, to be real with you, this is why I can't deal with deadbeat fathers. You know what I'm saying? Real rap. Like, for you to even be in my circle, for, I can't kick it with you. I can't party with you, no matter how cool you are. If you have kids that you don't take care of, right? That's family. That's cousins. That's everybody. It's not cool to have children out here that are not met with love and grace. And to be real with you, if anybody in my circle didn't take care of their kids, I would have to check them the way I would expect them to check me. Hey, bruh, you gotta be there for them babies, man. And, I even have friends that have some of that dynamic of maybe they'll be with the mother, maybe they won't. But we always encourage them to be the best dad possible. For real. And that's how men move. And if you have a circle of friends and that's not how they enforce it, I would encourage you to question your circle of friends. Now, access to education. Single mothers often spend over half of their income on housing expenses and a third on childcare, leaving them with less money for educational expenses. Without financial aid, single mothers have little or no means to contribute financially to their educational expenses. 1/3 graduated with a college degree, while 1/6 had not completed high school. That's why we should celebrate. First off, anybody getting their degree, we should celebrate. Education, especially in the right areas, is huge and empowering, especially for people of color in this country, because it used to be illegal for us to read. And I'm not afraid to say that. That's a fact. But if you're a single parent or a single mother, it was extremely difficult, according to these statistics. So we celebrate you. But we got to stop making things so hard on ourselves, right? And again, could be many different reasons why a single parent household may be a single parent household. But the numbers show that when that occurs, it's harder for the mother to improve her financial and educational well-being, and it's hard for that child to be raised properly. And I think that's where we want to keep the goalposts. Not whether men cheat, women cheat, whether people die, whether, how the baby's conceived. Those are all things that are very real. And again, we could talk about them another day. But we are just simply talking about when it occurs and two parents are not there, how does it affect the children? Yo, this is real life, man. That's why when Tupac came out with Dear Mama, it was so impactful. Right? Because it is hard to raise children. It's extremely hard to raise children. And as a single mother, I would imagine it's extremely hard to raise men, because no woman can show a young boy how to be a man. The same way there is no male that can show a little girl how to be a woman. And that's why it takes two. Paternal and maternal, feminine and masculine energy, to balance the energy within the babies so they can live and leave a balanced legacy, right? That is the goal. That is the objective. And when that does not occur, things are skewed. So some of the questions I have, right? Like, even when I think about my experience as being part of single parenthood, right? I'm blessed, right? Because my father and his family stepped up to take me in. As to where my sister and her father's family were in the same position. So we had very different experiences, right? And sometimes I think the experiences that I had given me strength. But even to this day, right? I even think about when it comes time for a boy to become a man, and time for him to be a father and a husband, and he has not witnessed a father and a husband in his household. How does he know what to do? What is his support like? Where does he get his guidance from? Right? How you should treat a woman, what the expectations are. Yes, your mother can tell you from the perspective of a woman, but when it comes to the role that the man plays, fathers are valuable in this regard. Right? And so if you're a male growing up without a father, you are at a disadvantage for a lot of areas. And look, there are some dope women out there that show their kids how to throw a football, how to tie a tie, how to do all types of like wild things, right? And we should celebrate them, but that is not the norm, and it should not have to be that hard. For real. When I think about it again, is single parenthood ever good, right? I think the statistics show that all it ever does is make things harder on the parent and the child. Not talking about the relationship aspect, but just simply raising in that human experience. It is more difficult. So why does our culture promote single parenthood? Why it is okay? Right? And listen, I'm not going to go to Kevin Samuels' route to start talking about the different racial demographics and why different races are okay with having fathers or not. That's a completely different conversation. And when we do have it, I want to have appropriate facts to discuss it. So not shying away from the conversation, but I just respect it so much that I want to do it right. But there is a disconnect there. Right? How does it affect the children? They're more likely to be broke. They're more likely to have an uphill struggle. They are more likely to have anxiety. They are more likely to be food insecure. They are more likely to be housing insecure. They are more likely to have educational challenges and behavioral challenges. And they're more likely to be exposed to risk by being around people that could harm them because two parents are not there. And to be completely honest with you, it takes a village. Right? It takes a village to raise a child. And I know communities grow up very different now. Kids grow up very different now than mine experience and that of my parents and so on and so forth. But there used to be the time that the community watched over the children, and the community empowered the children, and the community disciplined the children if they seen children doing things they should not be doing. You know? And keep it real, if I seen a friend of mine, son or daughter, outside doing something they should not be doing, I'm checking them like they my kid, and I'm letting my boy or female friend know, hey, I seen this, this, and this is what I did, go handle that. Because I would expect that phone call as well. Right? Done out of the spirit of love, because it takes a village. So when we think about the fact that it does take a village, and then that's even above there being two parents, we're down to one parent, we realize how hard it is. And, I don't think people think about this, but legacy and what you want to leave are important. How you want your babies to survive or succeed. And, I definitely don't want my children to have the same experiences growing up that I had. The uphill battle to prove themselves, to sustain, or just to belong, right? And part of that is what gives us the strength that we have, being forged by fire. But it doesn't have to be so hard. That's how I'm feeling, man. Saturday edition of the Universal Frequency. When I think of the value of the nuclear family, again, I'll say it over and over again. Paternal and maternal energy, feminine and masculine energy, being infused into the children so they can be balanced and have a balanced legacy for the babies that they bring into this world. That is the objective. So when I take a look at, single mother statistics, and we see that with child care, health care, hardship, poverty line, income, and employment, they're facing uphill battle. Life is hard, yo. Just saying. That's what's on my mind, y'all. For real. When I think about my experience, and even when I go out and I go to the Carver Center in Norwalk, or I go to a community center where I will engage children that may come from a single parent household, right? Sometimes I can always tell when the boy doesn't have a father around, because they gravitate towards me, because they seek it, they yearn it, they want to know how to be what they're supposed to be. And I know that sounds taboo in a world where publicly they'll allow children to declare their sex or sexuality before they even know who or what they are. And that's a whole conversation I don't want to get into, but I will call it by its name. That's exactly what it is. There are so much things that come into a child's upbringing that in order to prepare them, both parents need to be there. And I have I have friends that have lost parents, right? And those are scenarios where it's tough. And in those scenarios, we will hope the community and the uncles and the aunts and the grandparents step up to be present in that child's life if something were to occur. That's what's on my mind today, bro. It's a Saturday night. I'm getting deep, right? I'm not telling y'all not to have fun, right? I'm just saying, like, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, and the more I see these numbers, the more I have to challenge the dynamic of it being a win for anybody involved when a child is born into a single parent household. And yeah, if you're a chick and you get an athlete pregnant, you're the exception, right? Good for you, right? If you get a millionaire pregnant, or an entertainer, or someone that's high profile or a high owner, yeah. But you are the exception to the rule. The vast majority of women that will have and be in single parent households will face an uphill battle, income-wise, healthcare-wise, hardship-wise, education-wise, the ability to empower themselves. Like, people have to be able to prepare for when they can no longer physically work. That's another dynamic on this, right? So if it's such an uphill battle while the single parent is raising these children, how can they prepare for their elder years, right? How can they invest in their retirement, their savings, because Social Security is not going to do it. And these are conversations that we do not have in the black community. But what really ends up happening? The kids end up taking care of that parent because that parent cannot take care of themselves. That's placing a financial burden on the next generation, continuing that cycle. That is what occurs. I'm being real with y'all, man. I need you to like, subscribe, and share to this. We getting better. We getting stronger. We vibrating higher. I'm hitting my stride. You're going to hit your stride as well, because I firmly believe that when it comes to energy, the tide raises all ships. Okay? But listen, it is a Saturday night. I was supposed to do this yesterday, but I'm going to slide out of here. We're going to come back and talk about this more. I apologize for the abbreviated episode, but we good, we cooking, we moving. No worries, yo. Be safe. Be blessed, man. And have a good weekend. Like, subscribe, share.
Energy, frequency, vibration. Energy, frequency, vibration. Energy, frequency, vibration. Go and look at destiny now. Why are you waiting?